Hello, this is Steve from Kang Comics. Today, I'm going to go over the next big bad in the MCU and show off his very first appearance. Now that Loki Season 1 is over, and Kang basically set the stage for the multiverse, let's go over a little bit about this character. And I say a little because Kang the Conqueror he has many names and I basically can't cover all of this in one video. Kang the Conqueror is a time-traveling entity who has many different variations of himself. This includes really back in the day as Rama-Tut, and later on, he becomes Immortus and Iron Lad. For this video, I'm going to focus on his origins leading up into his very first appearance in Avengers number 8. Nathaniel Richards is from the 31st century, and he was a scholar and scientist and is a direct descendant of Reed Richards' time-traveling father, who himself becomes very fascinated with time travel and ultimately comes across Dr. Doom's time travel technology. Once he has this technology, he travels back in time into ancient Egypt and basically becomes the pharaoh Rama-Tut. During this instance, he meets up with the Fantastic Four and they ultimately beat him up, and he's just like, oh man. So after this defeat, Nathaniel is very, very bitter, and he travels to the future to meet Dr. Doom, whom he believes is his direct ancestor. So with Dr. Doom, he actually designs and creates his own armor based off of Dr. Doom's armor and calls himself the Scarlet Centurion. But during that story, that is actually told in Avengers Annual number 2, which is after the events from Avengers number 8, but timeline-wise, that was before. I know, very, very confusing. So after the Fantastic Four kicked his butt, he is very, very bitter again, and he decides to return to the 31st century. But what ends up happening is that he overshoots 4,000 years into the super, super future, where technology is just ultimate. And the thing is, the planet at the time is basically on its last limbs. So he basically chooses one of the sides, joins them, easily helps them defeat the other, and he basically becomes the conqueror of this new planet with all this technology. But obviously it's a dying planet, so he's like, well, I don't want this planet. I want to go back to my time, or I want to go back to the present time. So with the planet conquered, he takes these new weapons and decides, I need to take over Earth when it was, when it wasn't destroyed, everything was fertile, everything was great. So he basically time travels, and that's what leads right into Avengers number 8. So this issue right here, this is exactly where he pops in from that point of the story. So leading right into this issue, obviously this is Avengers number 8. This is a Silver Age book, so I actually got a really, really good deal on this. I believe it was 4 or 5 years ago. I was at Captain Nemo Comics in San Luis Obispo, which I think I will make a future episode about all the big scores I've gotten there. But this book was sitting in they had a little section called their treasure trove, which, the owner will just pull out some really, really nice books, not super, super high grade, but some pretty nice books, and he'll just sell them there in front of the cash register. So I looked through it. I was like, whoa, Avengers 8, what the heck? And I saw it. They did have it for $50. And I was like, that's an amazing deal, because this is before Kang the Conqueror was even big news, but he is a pretty big villain in MCU. So I definitely took advantage. I bought some other books, but I was like, I don't care, $50 for this, that's a great deal. And definitely it worked out. So this particular issue, in its current state, I'd say it's about a 5 to a 5.5, solely because there is a rip up here on top. And it's a pretty bad rip. Otherwise, this would be 6.5 to 7. It's that good, all the edges. So it's for a Silver Age book. This is from, I believe, 1963. I mean, this is just magical. Of course, the cover is not white. It's going to be an off-white because it's just from so much time. This is way older than me. So as you can see, I think the only other flaws, there's in the corner here, the top left corner, it's not really slightly chewed. It's just kind of, it's frayed just from its age. It just kind of cracks off. And there's one color break right here in the bend, which again is not very much. And that's literally it. Just the edges are not the sharpest, but for a book this old, this is amazing. And especially now that Kang the Conqueror has been introduced into the MCU through Loki, this is just going to continue to skyrocket, leading into, I believe, Ant-Man is his next appearance. And I'm assuming it's going to bleed off into the Avengers and maybe even Black Panther. It's going to be everywhere. But yeah, this is a great book. Well, that just about wraps up this episode about Kang the Conqueror. So seeing my book, what do you guys think? Should I press it? You know, it is a pretty old book. I'm not sure. It doesn't need a cleaning or anything. It's pretty solid. But do you think I should just leave it as is and maybe submit it, or definitely press? So go ahead and let me know in the comments below. And if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit the bell down there. Just so you know, every time I got one of my new videos popping up, you'll be one of the first to know. So in the meantime, this is Steve from Canty Comics, signing off.